Picture this: Cleveland, Ohio, 1870. A 31-year-old man controls just 4% of America's oil refining. 10 years later, 90%. By 1904, he owns 91% of all oil production and 85% of every final sale. But here is what they do teach you in school when the government broke up his empire in 1911, thinking they'd destroyed him. His wealth tripled. His name was John D. Rockefeller. And look, I need you to understand something crucial right now. This isn't just history. The system he built, every tactic, every structure, every predatory move, it didn't die. It evolved. Right now, in 2025, you're living inside his machine. The gas you pumped, Rockefeller's playbook. The drugs you buy, Rockefeller's playbook. The tech platforms controlling your data, same blueprint. The food you eat, the banks that own your mortgage, all of it traces back to one man's revolutionary strategy for total market domination. See, Rockefeller didn't just build an oil empire. He created the architecture of modern corporate control. Vertical integration, horizontal consolidation, regulatory capture, tax-exempt foundations that shape government policy. And here's the terrifying part: you cannot escape it. Because the system isn't Standard Oil. The system is the method. Amazon uses it. Google perfected it. Pfizer depends on it. Every dominant corporation for 150 years learned from the same blueprint. So let me show you exactly how one man designed the cage you're living in, how he became the richest human in modern history, why breaking up his company actually made him richer, and most importantly, why 114 years after that breakup, you still can't buy gasoline, search the internet, or get healthcare outside the system he created. Because understanding this isn't academic, it's survival. The machine is designed to extract wealth from you and concentrate it at the top. And once you see how it works, you'll see it everywhere. Act 1. The Origins, July 8, 1839. Richford, New York. John Davidson Rockefeller is born to the perfect parents for building an empire. His father, a literal con man selling fake cancer cures. His mother, a devout Baptist who believed in divine order. Think about that combination for a second. The con man's ruthlessness mixed with the Baptist's moral certainty. This wasn't just personality, it became his business philosophy. Rockefeller would crush competitors without a shred of mercy while genuinely believing God had chosen him to organize industry for mankind's benefit. And no, this wasn't hypocrisy. The man truly believed his monopoly was moral because it brought order to chaos, efficiency to waste. That conviction made him unstoppable. Oil is discovered in Titusville, Pennsylvania. The rush begins, thousands of prospectors flooding into western Pennsylvania. Fortunes made and lost overnight. Pure chaos. Boom and bust cycles. Overproduction collapses prices, then shortages spike them back up. Rockefeller is 20 years old, working as a bookkeeper in Cleveland. While everyone else is rushing to drill, he sees something different. Drilling, volatile, risky, dependent on luck. But refining, turning that crude oil into kerosene for lamps. That's the real business. Rockefeller invests $4,000 in his first refinery. Within 2 years, it's the largest in Cleveland. But here's the problem. Cleveland has 30 refineries. Competition is brutal. Margins are razor thin. Most are operating at the edge of bankruptcy. This is where genius emerges. Rockefeller doesn't try to compete on price. He tries to eliminate competition entirely. And he does it through a method that would become the foundation of corporate America. Vertical integration. Listen carefully, because this is the first pillar of the system. Most refineries just refined oil, right? They'd buy crude from drillers, refine it, sell kerosene to distributors. They controlled one step. Rockefeller decided to control all the steps. He bought the barrel-making factories no more, paying 25 cents per barrel when he could make them for 15. He bought tank cars and railroads to ship his own oil. He bought warehouses for storage. He bought the distribution networks to sell directly to consumers. Every single step that used to be a separate business, generating profit for someone else. Rockefeller brought it in-house, and this gave him massive cost advantages. While competitors paid railroads to ship oil, Rockefeller owned the tank cars and negotiated secret rebates. The railroads actually paid him to ship his oil and charged his competitors more. This wasn't just efficient, this was predatory. Rockefeller could sell kerosene at prices that bankrupted competitors while still making profit, and that's exactly what he did. Act 2. The Massacre. Rockefeller creates the Standard Oil Company of Ohio, is now the largest refining operation in the world, but still only controls 4% of American refining. That's not enough. So, Rockefeller launches Phase 2, horizontal integration. If vertical integration is controlling the entire supply chain, horizontal integration is buying or destroying every competitor. What historians call the Cleveland Massacre begins. Over 3 months, Rockefeller approaches every single refinery owner in Cleveland with the same offer: sell to me. If they agreed, he paid fair market value, often hired them as managers. If they refused, he launched a price war. Rockefeller would drop kerosene prices below cost. His competitors, who couldn't produce as cheaply, lost money on every sale. 2 choices: sell to Rockefeller or go bankrupt. Most sold, a few fought. They all lost. By the end of 1872, Rockefeller controlled 25 of Cleveland's 26 refineries. He went from 4% to 25% of American refining capacity in just 3 months. This was the blueprint: offer to buy. If they refuse, destroy them economically and buy the ruins. This method would be used in every industry, by every monopoly, for the next 150 years. But Rockefeller wasn't satisfied with Cleveland. He wanted the entire country. Through the 1870s, Standard Oil expanded across America: New York, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Same tactics everywhere. Secret railroad rebates making his shipping costs impossibly low. Vertical integration making his production costs unbeatable. Ruthless price wars destroying anyone who refused to sell by 8 in Standard Oil. Standard Oil controlled 90% of America's refining capacity. 90%. That's not a business. That's a monopoly. But here's where Rockefeller's true genius emerged. See, he understood that monopolies face 2 massive problems. First, they're illegal. The Sherman Antitrust Act would be passed in 1890, specifically to break up monsters like Standard Oil. Second, they're hated. The public despised Rockefeller. Robber baron, ruthless tyrant, the most hated man in America. Rockefeller needed a solution to both problems, and in 1882, his lawyers created it: the trust. Now, pay attention, because this is brilliant in the most sinister way possible. Standard Oil of Ohio couldn't legally own companies in other states, but a trust could. Rockefeller created a trust that held the stock of all Standard Oil companies. 41 shareholders, all Rockefeller and his inner circle, controlled the trust. The trust controlled the companies. This was the first major corporate trust in American history. Sugar Trust, Tobacco Trust, Steel Trust, they all copied Rockefeller's structure. But more importantly, it created a new legal entity, the holding company. It didn't produce anything. It just owned other companies. Sound familiar? Berkshire Hathaway, Alphabet, Meta, Amazon, they're all descendants of Rockefeller's trust. By 1904, Standard Oil controlled 91% of oil refining and 85% of final sales. Rockefeller's net worth: $900 million, that's $25 billion today. But at his peak in 1913, $400 billion in inflation-adjusted dollars, richer than Bezos, Musk, and Gates combined. The richest individual in modern history. Act 3. The breakup that wasn't, but the public was turning. 1890. Sherman Antitrust Act makes monopolies illegal. 1906. Journalist Ida Tarbell publishes The History of Standard Oil Company, exposing every dirty tactic. The secret rebates, the predatory pricing, the crushed competitors. The outcry is enormous. 1911. The Supreme Court rules Standard Oil is an illegal monopoly and orders it broken into 34 separate companies. This should have been the end, the destruction of the system, but it wasn't. It was the beginning of the system's evolution. Because here's what they don't tell you. When Standard Oil was broken up, Rockefeller still owned shares in all 34 companies. Standard Oil of New Jersey became Exxon. Standard Oil of New York became Mobil. Standard Oil of California became Chevron. Standard Oil of Indiana became Amazon. And here's the kicker. Before the breakup, Standard Oil stock was worth about $600 per share. After the breakup, the combined value of all 34 companies was worth over $2,000 per share. Rockefeller's wealth tripled. Why? Because the breakup forced each company to compete, which drove innovation and efficiency, and because breaking one monopoly into 34 companies that still dominated their regional markets wasn't really breaking up the monopoly, it was just reorganizing it. And today, most of those 34 companies have merged back together. Exxon and Mobil merged in 1999, Chevron bought Standard Oil of Kentucky and Gulf Oil, BP bought Amoco and Ohio. The Standard Oil monopoly that was broken up in 1911 has essentially reconsolidated into ExxonMobil, Chevron, and BP. The system broke itself up to avoid regulation, then quietly put itself back together over 100 years. Let that sink in. Act 4. The system today, but Standard Oil isn't even Rockefeller's most enduring legacy. The real legacy is the system itself, the methods, the structures, the playbook. Let me show you how it's being used right now. Today, in 2025, Amazon uses vertical integration exactly like Rockefeller. Started as an online bookstore. Now it controls the entire supply chain, owns the warehouses, the logistics network, the delivery trucks, the payment processing, even the cloud infrastructure that hosts its competitors' websites. Amazon Web Services (AWS) generates $90 billion annually. That's more than Amazon's entire retail profit. Rockefeller controls refineries, railroads, and distribution. Amazon controls retail, logistics, and cloud computing. Same playbook, different century. Amazon also uses horizontal consolidation. Over 100 acquisitions, Whole Foods, Zappos, Twittering, MGM Studios, and when it can't buy a competitor, it copies their products and undercuts their prices using data from its own marketplace. Third-party sellers report their sales to Amazon. Amazon analyzes that data, identifies successful products, creates Amazon Basics versions, and promotes them above the original. This is the modern version of Rockefeller's price war: legal, barely regulated, devastatingly effective. Google uses the trust structure. Alphabet is a holding company that owns Google, YouTube, Waymo, DeepMind, Verily, and dozens of other subsidiaries. It's the Standard Oil Trust, and one parent company controlling multiple operating companies. This structure shields the parent from liability, allows tax optimization, and makes regulatory breakup nearly impossible, because each subsidiary is technically separate. Pharmaceutical companies use Rockefeller's regulatory capture strategy. Rockefeller didn't just compete in markets, he shaped the rules. He lobbied for railroad regulations that favored Standard Oil. He worked with politicians to set kerosene. His standards his refineries could meet, but competitors couldn't. Today, pharmaceutical companies fund the FDA through user fees. They lobby for patent extensions. They write the regulations they're supposedly regulated by. Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Merck. They learn from Rockefeller. Control the regulators, and you control the market. The financial sector uses holding company structures. JP Morgan Chase is a holding company that owns Chase Bank, JP Morgan Investment Bank, and numerous subsidiaries. When Dodd-Frank tried to regulate banks after 2008, the holding company structure made it nearly impossible. Which entity do you regulate, the parent or the subsidiaries? Rockefeller solved this problem in 1882. Banks copied the solution 100 years later. Act 5. The ultimate innovation. And then there's philanthropy, Rockefeller's final, most brilliant innovation. Rockefeller creates the Rockefeller Foundation with $250 million, over $7 billion today. The foundation funded medical research, education, public health. On the surface, pure charity, Rockefeller giving back. But look deeper. The foundation allowed Rockefeller to avoid estate taxes. It gave him control over which universities received funding, which meant control over what was taught and researched. It bought him legitimacy. The man who destroyed thousands of competitors was now a philanthropist. The most hated man in America became a beloved benefactor. The Rockefeller Foundation funded the creation of modern medical education. Johns Hopkins, University of Chicago, Rockefeller University. It established the model for medical schools that emphasized pharmaceutical interventions over holistic care. This isn't conspiracy theory, this is documented history. The foundation shaped American medicine to favor the pharmaceutical model. And pharmaceutical companies, many descended from Standard Oil's chemical divisions, profited enormously today. Every billionaire uses the Rockefeller playbook. Bill Gates, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, $75 billion in assets. Shapes WHO policy, influences national governments. Mark Zuckerberg, Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. Warren Buffett pledged most of his wealth to the Gates Foundation. These aren't just charity. They're tax avoidance, legacy building, and policy influence. Rockefeller invented the model. Modern billionaires perfected it. The Rockefeller family still exists, still influential. David Rockefeller, John D.'s grandson, died in 2017 at 101. He was chairman of Chase Manhattan Bank, founder of the Trilateral Commission, one of the most powerful men in global finance for 50 years. The family's wealth, estimated at $11 billion, is spread across hundreds of trusts and foundations. They still shape policy, fund research, and influence politics 150 years after John D. started Standard Oil. Act 6. The cage you're in. And here's the most important part, the part that should genuinely concern you. The system isn't designed to be escaped. It's designed to be invisible until you're already trapped. Think about your life right now. You buy gasoline refined by ExxonMobil or Chevron, descendants of Standard Oil. You buy from Amazon, Rockefellers, vertical integration and horizontal consolidation. You search on Google, structured as a trust, like Standard Oil. You take pharmaceuticals developed through a medical system shaped by Rockefeller Foundation grants. You banked with institutions using Rockefeller's holding company structures. Your taxes fund regulations written by the industries being regulated just like Rockefeller designed. The system is self-perpetuating. It concentrates wealth. It eliminates competition. It captures regulators. And it uses philanthropy to buy legitimacy while avoiding taxes. This is the Rockefeller system. And it's not a conspiracy, it's just corporate structure. Legal, accepted, replicated by every dominant company in every major industry. Let me show you the extraction mechanism in action. You need gasoline. Your choices: Exxon, Chevron, BP, Shell. All of them are price-coordinated oligopolies descended from Standard Oil or using its methods. You're not choosing. You're selecting between branches of the same tree. You need internet search. Google has 92% market share, higher than Standard Oil's peak of 91%. But Google isn't considered a monopoly because it's free. You pay with data instead of money. Rockefeller would have loved this innovation, a monopoly so complete that users don't even realize they're paying. You need social media. Facebook has 3 billion users. Instagram, also Facebook. WhatsApp, also Facebook. You're not choosing platforms. You're choosing which meta property to use. Horizontal consolidation. Exactly like Rockefeller. The average American spends $4,000 a year on gasoline, $3,000 a year on Amazon, $5,000 a year on healthcare beyond insurance, $4,200 a year on internet and tech services. That's $16,200 per year flowing to companies using Rockefeller's system over a lifetime. That's $810,000 of wealth transfer, not to innovative startups or small businesses, but to monopolistic corporations using 150-year-old tactics to eliminate competition and extract maximum profit. And you cannot escape it. Act 7. The truth about the system. But here's what Rockefeller understood that most people miss. The system isn't evil. It's efficient. Vertical integration reduces costs. Horizontal consolidation eliminates wasteful competition. Regulatory capture provides stability. Foundations fund genuine research. The system works. Standard Oil made kerosene affordable for average Americans. Before Standard Oil, kerosene costs 58 cents per gallon. After Rockefeller's efficiencies, 8 cents per gallon. That's an 86% price reduction. That's not exploitation, that's efficiency. Amazon delivers products in 2 days. Google answers every question in seconds. ExxonMobil produces gasoline at scale. Pfizer develops life-saving drugs. The system delivers value. The problem isn't that it doesn't work. The problem is that it concentrates wealth at the top while delivering efficiency at the bottom. You get cheap gasoline, fast shipping, instant information, and effective medicine. Rockefeller's heirs get trillions in accumulated wealth. Both things are true. Closing. Your 3 options. So what do? How do you respond to a system you cannot escape? You have 3 options. Option 1. Accept it. Understand that consolidation and monopoly are features of advanced capitalism, not bugs. Use the efficiencies they provide. Buy from Amazon. Use Google. Accept that wealth will concentrate. Option 2. Resist it. Support antitrust enforcement. Buy from small businesses even when it costs more. Use alternatives even when they're inferior. Vote for politicians who promise to break up monopolies. Make the system less efficient in exchange for less consolidation. Option 3. Understand it and position accordingly. If you cannot escape the system, benefit from it. Buy stock in the companies that dominate. Exxon, Chevron, Amazon, Google, Pfizer, JP. If the system extracts wealth from everyone and concentrates it in these companies, own these companies. This is what Rockefeller did. He owned Standard Oil while everyone else bought its products. He extracted wealth from the system he built. You can do the same, not at his scale, but proportionally. This isn't investment advice. This is pattern recognition. The Rockefeller system has concentrated wealth for 150 years. It will continue concentrating wealth because it's embedded in corporate law, tax code, and regulatory structures. Fighting it is noble but exhausting. Escaping it is impossible. Understanding it and positioning within it, that's pragmatic. Final thoughts. John D. Rockefeller died in 1937 at age 97. He lived long enough to see Standard Oil broken up, reconsolidate, and spread its methods across every industry. He lived long enough to see his foundation reshape American medicine and education. He lived long enough to see his grandchildren positioned at the top of American finance and industry. He built a system that outlived him by a century and will outlive us all. Rockefeller once said, "Competition is a sin." Most people hear that as greed, but Rockefeller meant it theologically. Competition is wasteful. It duplicates effort. It destroys capital. Consolidation is righteous. It creates efficiency. It serves consumers through lower prices. Monopoly isn't theft, it's the natural end state of efficient markets. This was Rockefeller's worldview, and he built a system to enforce it. 150 years later, we live in that system. The consolidation Rockefeller started has reached its logical conclusion. The end state isn't thousands of competitors, it's 3 to 5 dominant players in every industry, all using Rockefeller's playbook. And the consolidation continues. Every year, fewer companies control more market share. Every year, barriers to entry get higher. Every year, the system gets harder to escape. This is the Rockefeller system, not Standard Oil the method. And the method is eternal because it works. If this video showed you a system you'd never seen before, if you understand now that the corporate structures controlling your life were built by one man 150 years ago, subscribe to this channel, because understanding the system is the first step. You cannot escape the Rockefeller system, but you can see it, and seeing it changes everything.